Welcome to our training video on awarding final applications from final approval into grant tracking. In this video, we will be going over the process of changing your final applications that are sitting in final approval and have been reviewed and are ready to award the applications and create grants. This is what we call grant tracking. It's a critical note that you must always ensure that you have already set up your funding opportunity prior to awarding the applications into grant tracking. If you've not done this previously, please stop and see the video on preparing funding opportunities for grant tracking. Also, always use a test application first to award into grant tracking to verify that that funding opportunity is set up properly. So let's begin by going from the menu into reviews and selecting final approval. Again, this is where your final applications are sitting and under review status. So we will select the funding opportunity. You should see a list of all of your applications. So go over to the right and click your edit list. What this does is this opens up the status column on the left-hand side of your screen and shows a drop-down. If you click on that drop-down, let's kind of go through the different options that are available. You will have the option to award into grant tracking or not award each application. If you choose to not award an application, it will stay in final approval and will not go into grant tracking. You'll see another status option in this drop-down. This is approved. This status is only used for a pre-application stage. So if you are working with pre-apps and final apps, you will see them here and must pay close attention to the application stage. The pre-app stage and the approved status is used to approve the applicant to apply for a final application. So if you would happen to click on the approved status when your application stage is final, the system will simply ignore it because this status is not applicable. If you can also leave any application in the under review status if you aren't ready to award that particular application into grant tracking yet. As I stated earlier in this video, before awarding any real application, use a test application first. So to actually change the status to award, just click on the drop down and select it. It will actually highlight your selection. Once you have made your selection on that test application, just scroll to the top and click Save. Once this is done, look at your screen because the test application has actually been removed from your final approval view screen. You shouldn't see it anymore. So now let's go search for that awarded application, now a grant in the grant tracking module. There are a few things that you will want to verify before you actually award all real applications in the grant tracking. So let's do the grant search for this grant. If you click on grant tracking, there's numerous ways to search for grant in grant tracking. You can search by the grant number, the status, awarded or underway. There's other options, organization, program area, funding opportunity title, so on and so forth, okay? For this purpose, we're just simply going to enter in the grant number, which is 00003. So it's grant number 3. We're just going to click that search on the right-hand side. Now, depending on what search criteria you ask for, it brings up the grant view screen, and you have multiple grants in this listing showing or a specific grant, just like what we did. We entered the grant number, so only that number, I guess grant number 8 will show up. In this view, you'll see the grant number and other pertinent information about the grant, like the grant budget. The budget amount on the right-hand side should be equal or the same amount as the application that you just awarded from final approval. This is where you will, if you would see like a zero amount, you need to ensure that there wasn't an application budget copied to the grant. Or if there should be a grant budget, then you know right away something is wrong in your funding opportunity, and now obviously this test grant. If the applicants entered their budget information and this form was set to copy to the grant, then it shouldn't show a zero amount. You should see the amount as what the application shows on the last version or the current version. If you do not see an amount, you definitely want to confirm that the amount is correct, or that if something is wrong with this grant, then, you know, see your program officer or see your admin, because this should not be zero normally. There's other blue links for organization, grantee, and program officer that would take you to their profiles in the people or org database. Let's click on the grant title. You should now see the grant that the system actually created. Let's go through what should be reviewed to ensure that all grants are created properly from their application and the items that you should verify. The system has created like a complete lifecycle file within the grant. You will always know the funding opportunity information. The application itself is copied to the grant and is never lost, not even the attachment. Any notes, and if the application was reviewed, all the review forms from all reviewers and rounds will show here as well. It also shows today's date over on the right, because that's when the grant was created and the grant forms were populated with the data from the application. So this indicates which forms were set to copy so that the data will now show. You'll see that with the last edited by a date, not a dash. If it's a dash, then it truly is empty, or it's a component of the grant. So let's start with the budget form that was set to copy to the grant. In this scenario, what you should be doing is looking at the awarded amount in the header, and it should be equal to what the budget is. If these two have a discrepancy, then there may be an issue, and you, again, may want to contact your system administrator or program officer for help. So it could be either at the funding opportunity or in the form creator. We just want to make sure that everything looks the same from the application to the grant. If everything looks the same, then great. We move on to the next form that was set to copy to the grant and verify it against the application also. You will continue to do this until all the forms are verified. Once this is done, then you want to go to your grant general information. Now, again, the grant general information is a system form that tracks the grant by number of fields. Remember all the optional fields that were available to search by in the grant track searching? This is why. These are system fields and can't be changed or deleted in the form creator, or it could possibly crash your system. Or you may throw an internal error that won't allow you to access the grants because you've deleted some pertinent information that the system actually needs to access those grants. So if you're questioning any fields in here, contact Dallas prior to making any changes. Okay, let's click Edit at the top of our screen and see the fields. We have the option to update. We can change the grant title, grant status. You can even change the organization if needed, and the grantee name, contact, program officer, and any additional contacts, whether those are internal and external, may be needed to be updated or added. The program officer. This field is automatically populated from the program officer listed in the funding opportunity, so you may need to change this. Contract number. You may want to change this to the contract number that the grantee signed. Award year can be changed. That's a 4-digit number field. Contract date. These are date fields that can be used to track the contract activity and can be used to report on in the reporting module. Project dates. These dates should have dates already populated. If you enter project dates in your funding opportunity, then the system automatically uses those for populating the grant when it is created. Do not leave these blank. The system uses these fields for scheduling status reports or claims. So definitely do not leave the project dates empty. Internal comments can also be entered. When you're done, you just click Save to save any of your changes. If everything looks great, we now want to go back to the menu and actually go back to reviews in our final approval. And this is where you would actually go in and change your actual applications to awarded status into grant tracking. Another note I'd like to add is you may make these selections for as many applications in this listing for this particular funding opportunity as you like. The system will not limit you to a certain amount of applications that you can award or not award. However, if you have a slow internet connection, the more you select, obviously, the longer this could possibly take. The 30 seconds or more. Now, all of your real applications you selected awarded as the status will be in grant tracking and should have mapped perfectly if your funding opportunity and forms are set up correctly. Another note about the grant status: when you award the final applications in a grant tracking, it is creating them in awarded status. In awarded status, the system is automatically blocking your grantees from viewing the grant. They can't access the grant in grant tracking yet. This is your time to set up everything properly in the grant and get it ready for the grantee to access the grant. You will change the status on all these grants to underway when the time is ready. You now are ready to start setting up the management forms in the grant and to possibly upload the contract, setting up the subcomponents of the grant, such as the claims, awards, and appropriations. Possibly contract amendments will be used, status reports, site visits, and any other grant form you want to add to help manage the grant, either internally or externally. Once your grant is set to underway, then the grantees will have access. So be sure that everything is ready for them to access their grant and start submitting claims or status reports. Thank you for watching the video on awarding applications into grant tracking.